All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Monday, all that jazz. So, how's it going, Jen? I have to say hi to you at least.
It's good. Everything's good.
I was just skipping straight to the episode. So today we're talking about schools and some of the bad advice, I guess, that we're hearing coming from schools. But first, we'll start with our opening takes. What do you got?
My opening take, I actually have one. I was inspired, I guess, by the staff recently at our salon. And I think as a leader, it's important, obviously, to lead your team in so many directions, meaning from technically getting them advanced, from growing them on a financial standpoint. But also, I think there's some times where you need to talk to them about life. So we have one of our girls right now. She's super young and she just started to get super busy. And her basically during her shift is just a snack game. So she thinks Cheez-Its and microwave popcorn, shout out Tori, I'm talking about you, is sustainable food to last through her whole shift. Until one day she was so busy and she finished her day and she realized she hadn't eaten all day. She was shaking, she was starving. And I'm like, Tori, you got to pack food. And she's like, I do. Cheez-Its and microwave popcorn. I'm like, you need lunch. So right now, I am, as a leader for Tori, teaching her how to adult, pack her food, and make sure she has enough real food to get through her day. And this way she can service every client to the best of her ability. So sometimes I think people need to be reminded that food is a wonderful source to keep your body going and allow you to actually operate at the highest level possible. And that means packing good ass food, not just Cheez-Its and microwave popcorn, which I do love also. Also, I think sometimes as a leader, like I said, it is important to know your team, and maybe some of them need some coaching in a different way. For Tori, it's just reminding her every day when she has a shift to pack a good, decent lunch so she eats well. So pack your lunch and eat good.
Cool. So this industry really does eat like shit, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I see a lot of that. That's weird to me. Anyway, so I keep seeing these, it's never going to go away. People are like, how do you get clients? How do you get clients? How do you get clients? You got to know your client. You got to know who you want to serve. So my opening take is a story that I heard recently, and I looked it up. This has never happened to me, but I looked it up and it is true. And it is about Chewy. Chewy is an online pet supply store. And we actually use them to get our food for our dog. I don't know why we don't use it for food for our cat, but we don't. We should.
Yeah.
Either way. So what happens is you set up your monthly or every other month or whatever, however often you get your food, and it just arrives at your house. And it's amazing because you don't have to remember it. You don't have to go to the store. You set it up online. You sort of dial it in because you got to figure out how long it takes you to go through it. And it takes a couple of tries unless you are good at guessing. But I had to guess for a few times. So you just shift it around and eventually it gets to a point where you're just getting the bags as you need them. And so the worst thing about pets, especially dogs, I would say, is that they just don't live very long. They live short lives. So unfortunately, your pet dies and your first instinct is never going to be, oh, let's go on Chewy and cancel my auto ship, right? You forget. So your Chewy shows up and you're like, damn, I don't need this food. So you reach out to Chewy and what they do is they tell you to donate the food, keep it, do whatever. They refund you, obviously. And they say, sorry for your loss. A few days later, you get flowers in the mail from Chewy. And they just want to let you know that they're thinking of you because they understand that losing a pet is difficult. They now have a customer for life. You're not going anywhere else to get your food. Mm-hmm. This company just sent you flowers. It is a little thing. Does anybody at Chewy actually know you? Well, no. But do they know the person? Do they know the avatar that they're talking to? Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that this industry, instead of going on Instagram or instead of going on Facebook and being like, how do you get more clients? How do you get more clients? Oh, sign up for my class for $5 a month and you can get more clients. Like, how about just pay attention? What are your clients looking for? How do they want to feel? What can you do to touch their lives or make an actual impression? And then just do that. That's all you have to do. And you'll have clients. It's the little things that you do at your business that set you up with lifetime clients. And we have a lot of those. Mm-hmm. So if you're listening, this stuff works. I'm not saying that we've sent flowers when people lose pets, but we do other things for our clients to let them know that we care,
Mm-hmm.
to let them know that, hey, you guys are humans too, and not just, somebody that we post passive aggressively at when you're late for your appointment.
How's
That's
that
my
working for
opening
you?
take.
That was good. I didn't know that about
All right.
Chewy. Good to know. Fun fact.
I didn't either.
I
I
like
heard it the
Chewy
other
even more
day.
now.
And I was like, I got to look into this because this is a cool story, and
And it's real.
it's real.
Hmm.
All right, so let's dive into. We were talking about this the other day. We went out for a drink, and we were just kind of chatting. You had taught a class, and there were a couple things I want to touch on. One was you said that you taught one woman who graduated with a class of 30,
Mm-hmm.
35 or something like
like
that,
that. Mm-hmm.
and only like 6 people
Mm-hmm.
still did hair.
Yeah. I think she's been doing hair, I think around 3 years.
Okay, so
Maybe 4, but something like that.
those aren't great odds.
No, not at all.
I wonder what's happening there. A big part of it, from what we've seen, is this booth rental thing where people want to leave school and immediately booth rent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying that that is not going to work for you. What I am saying is that's not going to work for most people.
Correct.
That's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
But when we've talked to people, we're hearing more and more that schools are instructing people to avoid commission salons because they can't make any money,
Mm-hmm.
and to booth rent
Mm-hmm.
because it's the only way you can make money.
Right.
I have a couple issues with that. One,
I probably have the same.
why do schools find the need to direct people like that?
Agreed.
So I'm not saying don't give advice. You're a school. People are choosing you for their education. But you're not you're teaching these people cosmetology, and then you're telling them to open a business.
Mm-hmm. Those are completely different things. And then those same people are complaining that you didn't teach them about business.
Yeah, so you're obviously not teaching them anything about business because we see this all over the place. People want to know about marketing and taxes and social media and all this other stuff that is a completely different skill set
Mm-hmm.
than, because running a business and doing good hair are two different things. You can be amazing at
Yeah.
running a business. It doesn't mean you can do hair. If you look at it that way, like
Right.
take
Correct.
any businessman or woman that you know, any businessman or woman that you know, can they just do hair?
Mm-mm.
No. Why not? Because
They're two different skill sets.
different skill set.
Extremely
So
different.
why do you think because you can not even really that well foil somebody's hair or something like that, or cut somebody's hair, that you can run and operate a business? Why would you think
It's
that?
wild to me.
And then why are you confused when it doesn't work out?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, again, I said this last week and I feel like I say it all the time. I'm not trying to be a jerk to people, but Jen and I, we are watching people fall on their faces.
Sad.
And it's sad because they're getting shit advice from either the school or their friends or some colleague, or, they're listening to somebody on Instagram who has no clue about you.
Or because
And
someone else has success, they're like, well, you can do it too, which you are not both the same people. So no, you will travel down different paths.
So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I want to also mention that I think people see this sort of trajectory where you go to school, work for a commission salon, leave as quick as possible, and then you'll magically be successful. Again, we're watching people fall on their faces. We're watching people have to get multiple jobs to afford their booth rent, which is insane to me. If you can't even afford your rent, that should be a
Sign
red flag right there for you. And we're watching people leave the industry, and I don't think that's cool. And if schools are pushing people in this way,
shame on you.
I would say shame on them, because they're not doing the legwork. They're not getting the statistics, because what we're seeing is that it's not working.
Mm-hmm. I feel I can give a few reasons why right off the bat it's not going to work, which is when you come out of school, you do shit hair. You literally just learned so many things. And so many people say, like, I didn't learn anything in school. You sure did. From day one to the day you graduated, you learned a shit ton. Maybe not everything you wanted, or maybe not everything you thought, but you learned a shit ton. And they most
They're killing
likely,
us.
You come out of school and you've learned more than you knew when you started. And that alone is what the school promises, right? To teach you how to do basic hair and how to pass a test. So if you learned basic hair and you passed a test, then that school did, I would imagine, what it set out to do with you as a student. I see all the time people blaming the schools for all the things they didn't learn rather than celebrating what they did. And when you get out of school, it is now your turn to take control of your career. So, the best part to take control of your career would be to find places that will educate you or find educators that will work with you, because now you really need to work on your hair skill set. If you go out and want to rent a chair, you are now working on so many different skills that none of them will end up being fantastic. You're learning how to do hair, you're learning how to run a business, you're learning how to do all of the things that come underneath that. And it's just common sense that none of those things are going to be able to be done well. So to me, the school should be setting you up with, when you get out of here, is finding the right fit for what you need to work on for your skill set. And that doesn't mean that every salon you go to is going to be your salon. Same thing when I see people rent chairs. They all go all over the place. They rent a chair one place, it doesn't work out. You've got to find the salon that fits your needs and fits your wants too, right? And that's your job to do that. So when you come out of school, it's your job to find the salon that will educate you and really help you work on your skill set, from behind the chair to other things like consultation and the way you present yourself. There's so many things that need to be learned when you come out of school. So the focus should be on that first.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I was going to bring up consultation because you point out all the time that people, when they're new, they will just rush through
Mm-hmm.
because they're just still processing what they need to do. They can't get into any sort of like flow state and just do the work
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know how.
Right.
They have to, when they're formulating, they're really formulating. Like
Right.
they don't have a foundation. They have a very basic understanding, but they don't have such a foundation, a broad foundation that they've put reps and reps on
Right.
so that they can just do that. They've got to work on their soft skills too. Like how many times have we seen new stylists or barbers or whatever who can't have conversations with people because
Right.
they're so focused on cutting the hair.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing else they can do. So those are the things that like what you were saying, Jen, I like, because you have to work on all of those things. And now on top of that, you're throwing in, how do I get clients? How do I market? How
Mm-hmm.
do I do my taxes?
Mm-hmm. How do I do my books
create
every
an
month?
LLC?
How do I do my orders? Like, how do I even know how much money it
How to
takes me to
create,
run a chair? How do I
yeah,
know,
how to
like,
create a budget, how to create my pricing. Like you think you're going to learn all that stuff, or
that
maybe
just
you
sounds
think,
overwhelming.
maybe you think you're just going to buy someone's course and then you'll be all set, which good for you. But we still see people who are doing that who aren't making it. So
Mm-hmm.
I had someone tell me once, working for yourself isn't always the best for everybody, because if you look at something simple like somebody who can't show up on time, if you can't show up on time for working for somebody else, how the heck are you going to show up for,
Right. There's no accountability anymore.
right, when you're the boss babe? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I think that there's a lot of, what's the word, glamorization
Mm-hmm.
of working for yourself, and people think if they can just say I work for myself that there's some sort of success there. You haven't done anything.
Right.
So
The
I don't know
title does
what you
not equal
see.
success.
Yeah, it's just like when people say, I went to hair school and I have a piece of paper. The piece of paper doesn't mean anything. It's all of the work that you put in after to make yourself better. Well, it's the same with owning a business. Anybody can own a business. I know complete jackasses that own businesses. It doesn't mean they're good people. It doesn't mean that they're successful at business. It just means they're a business owner.
Right. The title is quite silly to me.
Yeah.
I think too, like schools used to, and I don't think they do this anymore. When I went to hair school, you had to shadow at 3 different location salons. So you could pick them, they could pick them. They had some salons that they knew would allow you to shadow. And the value in that to me would allow people in school to talk to these stylists. Then if you could go out and shadow, right? Pick a commission salon, pick someone that's working on their own, and then pick like a corporate salon, because you could learn so much being in there about how these different salons are run. And then you could talk to those stylists like, hey, why are you on your own? Or hey, why are you at this commission salon? What do you like? then you could start to form your own opinion. And this is where I say shame on schools and people in general that do this. When you tell somebody what's going to be better for them, they stop thinking for themselves. They don't have a mindful approach to anything. So they believe because someone in school told them, you'll be more successful like this, when maybe that person was, but that it's not one and done. It's not black and white. So if schools got back into having these stylists get out, barbers, whoever, and shadow in different business settings, then they could talk to individual people and form their own opinion from what worked for them. Because I talk to a lot of people, I train a lot of people that are out on their own. And I'll tell you, most often they're saying to me, some days I just wish I could work at your salon. They don't even know my salon, right? But they hear us on the podcast, they see our website, they see what we're doing on social media, but they're like, it just becomes so much working for myself. I feel alone. I feel less creative because I'm having to do these business things. And some days I just feel super overwhelmed. And I'm like, I just wish I could go back to a good commissioned salon where I could just do hair and be creative. And in certain circumstances, if you find the right commissioned salon and it pushes you to get better at your skill set and raise your prices, I can tell you this, we have people in our salon that make more money than people that are working for themselves because of the price increases we do with them every year, that they are making more money as a commissioned stylist than they would if they worked for themselves. That's fact.
Correct. I think instead of, and I want to get into that a little more, but I don't want to lose this thought. Instead of schools telling people what they should be doing for their career, they should be asking them what type of career they're
Yep.
looking to create.
Absolutely.
And then they should be sitting down, because if you really want to help people, right?
Yeah, that's how you would do it.
You would sit down and then lay out what it's going to take for that person to build that career.
Right.
And in a lot of cases, it's going to be things like education. It's going to be mentorship and leadership. It's going to be team. It's going to be collaboration, because those are the things that make you feel safe with pushing yourself. Because when you push when you push yourself, you're taking a chance, right? You're trying a new technique. You've never done it. You're not going to do that on your own. How are you going to fix that if you don't even know what you're doing?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So if you're in an area or a situation where you have a team around you that can help you, you have that safety net to fall back on. So you're going to take risks and be better and know that someone has your back. Like at our salon, I tell people all the time, someone's always going to have your back. I tell people when they do men's hair, they're doing clipper work or whatever. And they're like, I'm always afraid of this. And I'm like, don't be afraid. You have people that can help you. And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, that's why you're here.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to talk about, because something you have brought up, you talk to some people that know some people who are, and you're like, everyone went to the salon and they thought it was going to be amazing. And now they're all like, I kind of hate it. So can you talk about that? And I'm be specific. Like, don't.
I'll be never ever.
Obviously, I'll edit this if
I got
there's
it.
any slip or anything.
I understand, and I've been in the industry long enough, like that. Even though what you see on social media, and sometimes even people say it's not always the truth. This one was, a lot of people. It makes it seem like where they're working, we have community, we work together, we help each other out. There's all of these other amenities that you would normally find in a commission salon at this booth rental salon. And so when we were talking, they were basically like half the people there, if not more, are absolutely miserable. Everyone just comes in like a robot, does their job, and no one talks to each other. There's no community at all. They feel literally like alienated, like it's like they're just working by themselves with their clients, and all of the things they're not getting, they miss from their commission salon. And it's interesting because these booth rental salons are selling themselves as a place that offers things that they don't. And to be honest, why set something up to be like, we do all this when you really don't? Why not just be honest? Hey, come here, rent your chair, work for yourself, have fun by yourself, do whatever. Like it's just where it's at. But it did shock me because I do see a lot of like their social media content, and it sells something so much that they are actually not able to offer. The community isn't there in the culture, and really these people just feel alone. And now, where there aren't a lot of really great run commission salons, I know there's some out there, but I know that there's not a lot that are really out there to help individuals grow and flourish. They're sort of just feeling stuck, and they're waiting for that next booth rental salon to kind of open up to see if maybe that's the right fit. And they're just kind of feeling defeated.
Yeah, that's too bad. And I would also like to point out that this isn't just a booth rental thing. There's a lot of commission salons that advertise things that they're not doing as
Absolutely.
well.
You could insert that with either one, right?
So this isn't an anti booth rent or anti boss babe or whatever. So bring on the haters. Like I don't care if you're like, I would never, because you always see that on social media too. Renting a chair was the best thing I ever did. I did it 8 years ago and I would never go back. Great. That's awesome. It worked for you. But we're
Yes.
literally
So
watching
great for
people
you.
drop out of
Right.
the industry because they were sold this thing that's not true. And the whole allure, I think it all started with the title, but then it moved to, and you still see these ads, keep 100% of your money. Really? So my chair rent is free because
Right.
I
My
don't keep
products are
100%
free.
of your money. Yeah, you
I don't
don't
have to
keep
pay my
100% of
taxes.
your money. Right. It's just a stupid thing that people are using to entice these younger hair pros that should be celebrated. They're coming into a cool career, a cool industry, and it should be that people are trying to scoop them up and take them under their wing.
Mhm.
But really, people are trying to scoop them up and just become a landlord to them. And cool. I mean, I'm not knocking it. Good for you. You have a business model, but I do think you're going to see a little bit of a bubble burst
Mhm.
at some point because it just seems like every day it's more and more and more where people are like, I thought this, or I was sold this, or everyone told me that I would have this. And yeah, you've got to do your own research too.
Mhm.
So if you're listening and you're a student, do some research. I'm not saying like we can't hire everybody that
Mhm.
comes out of school. And I'm not even advertising for ourselves that like whether we're hiring or not. But you have to go out and like Jen said, go to a commission salon. Go see if you can shadow somebody independent. They might like the company.
Mhm.
See if
Yeah.
you can get into a corporate salon just to shadow for a day because even if your school doesn't require it, we always offer shadowing
Oh, yeah.
for people that reach out. I try to make it work 100% of the time. Even if we're not hiring, even if we've put a firm pause on hiring, which was recent for us, I would have people reach out, and we have like several people reach out every week.
Mhm.
And so I would say, hey, at the moment, we put a pause on hiring, but we like to meet everybody because you never know. The industry changes, things change.
Yeah.
Somebody moves, somebody gets sick, somebody just drops out of the industry. I don't know. I'm just thinking what could happen.
Yeah.
We want to hire at that point. So having a relationship, and I would say if only a handful of people take us up on that, I offer them to come in, we can chat, you can shadow, you can hang out with Jen for a day, whatever you want to do. And it's always interesting because I actually have two people that are interested in that currently. And I had like 5 reach out over the past like 2 weeks. And I haven't heard back from any of those people. So I'm like, you're not even willing to like form a
Right.
relationship or
It does
answer my
help with the
email.
hiring process because we then weed out through the ones that just are looking for any salon, and you find the ones
Right.
that really believe in what you're doing and are like, I would love to at least meet with you.
Yeah, and that's what I got on the last or the second to last one. I was like, I'm not sure we're hiring right at the moment. I don't want to get into too much detail. We're talking about doing some expanding and stuff like that, but I'm not going to write that in an email.
Right.
So I said, hey, we're not necessarily hiring right now. We still want to meet, blah, blah. And the girl was like, I still want to meet. I dig your vibe and think it would be cool to meet with you guys
Mhm.
either way.
And
And I
it's
was like,
just
awesome.
we want to form relationships too because it's important for our future. And I say all the time like people coming out of school, I want to know what are they looking for? What do they want? What do they see? Kind of what you said before, like what are you looking for your future in the hair industry? Because also every year or every so often, we have to make sure our business is running and operating in the year that we're in. I say that and it might sound silly, but there are a lot of salons that are operating like 10 years ago. Like they don't have the stuff that they should have in 2025. They haven't pivoted and grown into this year. So when things start to change, they're overwhelmed, right? Because they didn't pivot and change with every year for new things that needed to come into their business. I think too, I'd like to just say this with renting. I know like sometimes it does sound like we're being negative. The goal here is to be thought provoking, right? Like think about what you're doing. Just because someone else is successful does not mean you will be successful. Just because someone else does really well in the rental community does not mean it's the best choice for you. And to be honest, if you find a commission salon that will, I've said this a few times today, get you to raise your prices and push you to be better and do better. I see so many people that go to rent and their prices stay the same for 10 years. They have never progressed. So what you start to see is,
I've seen them go down.
or I've seen that too. They leave and they actually make their prices less.
They
And
lower their
they
price.
lower them. And then they're too afraid to make adjustments on their prices because they're not marketing. They're not able to run their business the right way. They don't know their cost per service. And they're frozen in this world where like they need to make more money. They can only work so much. And now they're starting to get salty. And the creative part of the hair has gone away completely. And then you have these people like the way we run Hello, and we're able to get them to, when they're ready, raise these prices and feel confident behind it and not lose clients, because it's a mathematical equation that we follow to ensure them success. And their haircuts now are going from when they started at $45. We have some people that are going up to $80, and they're worth it. And they're doing the work that would that looks like an $80 haircut. And they'll say to me all the time, if I was on my own, I would never charge $80 for a haircut. I'd be too afraid and I'd have nobody to support me. So in this scenario, if they were renting a chair, they would not be as successful. And when I say successful, I mean in a paycheck financially. That's how I'm going to define this success if they were on their own. So there's whatever your way is, it's just making sure, I guess, you define what success is. And it should be that you're profitable, extremely profitable. Not everybody can do that on their own because they're too afraid.
Yeah, we'll have. So I also want to make a point real quick. Jen said we have people at $80. Yeah, we'll have several people with $100 plus haircuts. And we're not talking decades. We're talking a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Put in the work for a couple of years and you can build a book and charge those prices.
Yeah.
But you've got to do the work. You have to do actual education. I'm not talking about going to a PK class. And I've been known to knock PK classes. I apologize.
It's fine. I teach them.
You have to be able to identify and go to actual education that's going to improve you as a hair pro.
Mm-hmm.
And we help our staff weed out all the BS classes that are out there, because there are a lot of them.
Yes.
And you have to be willing to push yourself and get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to put stuff into effect immediately. So when you learn something, it's like half of it's gone. And then each day you don't do something with it, you lose a little bit more. So we encourage people to go hands-on immediately. You take a class, you need to put something into effect, or it's just going to be gone and you've wasted your time. And so having that support system, and I know every salon says that they have a support system, but like, prove it. What are you producing? What are you, and I'm not using, like, Jen and I aren't using these prices to brag. I'm not saying everyone has an $80 haircut to make people feel bad or to be like, oh, well, Hello is this or whatever. No, it's not. It's just we're teaching people how to get to what they want to get to.
Mm-hmm.
We also have people that aren't at that price,
right?
Which is fine. They're taking a slower approach. I think it needs to get back to, it's like when we talk about education and we say a lot of educators make it about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like the schools might be doing that a little.
Yeah.
They might be a little salty because they had an experience.
Right.
So they're trying to force it on everybody else, or they're trying to get their point across. It's like when you work with a business coach or when you work with a business mentor or whatever, and this can be any industry. What happens often, what we've seen happen, we've worked with this, is that these people are just pushing their agenda. They're not asking what you want to succeed. They're telling you what you need to do to succeed. Right. And that's just not a good approach. I'm with you 100%. It's
a bad business model. I think it's always, again, trying to figure out what path you want for whatever you're doing, yourself, your business, all those things. How do you want to get
in
there?
this industry, you're attracting a lot of young people. It's a very low barrier to entry. You go to school for a year or two and you're all set. It's not like becoming a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist. It's
10 months for full time.
Yeah, 10 months and you're all set. So it's just a younger crowd.
Yeah,
so
most people coming out of hair school are probably 18, 19 years old, So
they're more impressionable is what I was going to say. So then they buy all the stuff. Like the other day we were joking with Jen's apprentice and I said, never ever do anything ever that you see on Instagram. And one of our other stylists, kind of a smart ass, was like, I do stuff I see on Instagram all the time. Yeah, well, you've been doing hair for like 6 years.
Yeah, like you're
There's a big
different.
difference. You understand why
Mm-hmm.
you're doing something.
Yeah.
Like if you go into a haircut and you have never cut the hair in this particular method and you get lost, can you get yourself out of that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you're brand new, no is usually the answer.
Right.
You can't. You're lost. You're overwhelmed now,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're working on a client, not even talking about a mannequin. But
Mm-hmm.
so now what are you supposed to do? And that's why I tell people to avoid all the Instagram noise, especially in the beginning. If you want to experiment with stuff when you're 5 or 6 years down the road, no, go for it, obviously, because you understand the fundamentals. You've done enough where you're like, this isn't working for me. I can pivot and I can still execute this and make this client happy doing it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No, I think that's great. I really, at the end of the day, you got to do your research and you got to get yourself out there and you got to figure out what's best for you. And I think you said this, and I totally agree. Like, you need to define what you want out of the career. You need to define what success means to you and what does that look like. And that can always be changing. But if you don't know, like if you're like, oh, well, they're successful, so I'm going to do what they do. Like, well, that might not equal success to you. That might not even give you a successful feeling. And I think too, it's, at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're having fun too. So if you start doing everything all at once, generally you're not going to have fun doing any of them and you're not going to do them well. And then where are you at? But it's really, to me, do your research, get out there. I say all the time, internship, shadow, whatever you want to call it, and in all different capacities so you can learn and pick people's brains.
Yeah, for sure. And stay away from just the social media and the people telling you, like, you'll see this, like, oh, I show people how to become a 6-figure stylist. What does that even mean?
Right.
Are we talking 100 grand? What if somebody needs 300 grand to live and you teach them how to barely get 100?
Right.
Like, that's not, and again, I'm just picking arbitrary numbers, but it's very confusing. And it's unfortunate because I think that a lot of it is people preying upon kids.
Yeah.
Basically. I'll just say that.
And we'd love to see the numbers go up where people stay in this industry longer than right now it's looking like they are. So we're just trying to give tidbits so maybe you last more than 3 to 5 years. Tidbits.
It's a fun word.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you want to talk about the apprenticeship or should we make that a separate?
Let's do that another day.
All right.
Don't want to bore everybody.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. If you guys have any questions, reach out.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Love to help.
And would love to chat. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone.